The gap between knowing and doing is where most dreams disappear. Stop for a second and think about your own life. How many times have you said to yourself, I know I should do this, but then nothing happened? You knew what step to take, but you didn't move. You knew what change to make, but you delayed it. That gap, that space between knowing and doing, is where most people lose everything they want. People don't fail because they don't know. They fail because they don't act, and the mind is clever. It convinces you that knowing is enough, that thinking about it is progress. But deep down, you feel the truth. Until you act, nothing changes. The hardest part for most people is not learning. The world today is full of books, courses, videos, podcasts, and all kinds of advice. You can sit at home and in a few hours know more about success, money, health, or relationships than people in the past could learn in a lifetime. Knowledge is not the problem anymore. The problem is what happens after the learning. The problem is that people collect knowledge and never use it. You can read about discipline every night before bed, but if you don't wake up tomorrow and actually follow through with discipline, you are no different than yesterday. You can learn how to save money, how to invest, how to build a business, but if you don't take the first step to put that money aside, make that phone call, start that plan, you're in the exact same position you were in before. Knowing by itself doesn't build your future. Doing does. Think about it. How many times have you said, I already know that, and yet your life looks the same? You know you should eat better, but your health hasn't improved. You know you should save money, but your bank account still suffers. You know you should work on your skills, but years have passed without progress. The truth is, knowledge that stays in your head has no value. It only becomes valuable when it shows up in your action. This is where most dreams disappear. People confuse knowing with doing. They feel a sense of satisfaction because they've learned something, and that little burst of satisfaction tricks the mind. It makes you believe you've already accomplished something when in reality, you haven't moved an inch. The knowledge sits inside unused while time keeps moving forward. Life doesn't reward you for what you know. Life rewards you for what you apply. The bank doesn't care if you know about money management. Your body doesn't care if you know about health. Your relationships don't care if you know about communication. Life looks at what you do, not what you know. Comfort is one of the most dangerous traps for anyone who wants to achieve more in life. It doesn't scream at you. It doesn't push you away. It simply holds you softly until you forget how much time you've lost. The comfort loop works in simple ways. You tell yourself you'll begin a task after a short rest. That rest turns into hours wasted. You convince yourself that you need a little more energy, so you delay again. You wait for motivation, but motivation doesn't come. Days pass, and the real work that could have changed your life is left untouched. Fear has a way of stopping people before they even begin. It shows up in the mind as hesitation, and if you give it time, it grows into doubt. Once doubt settles in, it becomes harder and harder to move. Fear thrives in delay. When you sit and think about what could go wrong, your imagination builds scenarios that may never happen. You start picturing failure, embarrassment, rejection, and mistakes. These thoughts multiply quickly, and before long, the task you wanted to start feels impossible. But notice this: those images exist only in your mind. They are not real until you let them stop you. Action cuts through that fog, because when you act, you face reality instead of imagination. Most people don't fail because they couldn't succeed. They fail because fear froze them before they gave themselves a chance. Every day you are faced with chances to test what you've learned. When you feel tired, you test your knowledge about discipline. When you manage your money, you test your knowledge about responsibility. When you communicate with others, you test your knowledge about respect and patience. Knowledge doesn't show up in a book or a classroom once you've learned it. It shows up in your behavior, in your choices, in the way you live. One of the strongest measures of a person's character is not what they begin, but what they finish. Starting is easy. Starting feels exciting. Starting gives you the rush of possibility, but finishing requires accountability, discipline, and endurance. Life does not reward you for unfinished plans or half-completed goals. It rewards you for the things you see through to the end. Look at your life closely and count the number of projects, ideas, or commitments that were started with enthusiasm but left incomplete. Books that were opened but never read past the first few chapters. Workouts that began with energy but stopped after a week. goals written on paper that never saw action beyond the first step. Every unfinished commitment leaves behind a small trace of disappointment, and over time, those traces collect into regret. The distance between knowing what to do and actually doing it is the very space where most people lose their potential. That gap doesn't shrink by accident. It closes only when discipline is practiced every single day. Discipline is not something you do once in a while when you feel motivated. It is a decision you make repeatedly whether you feel like it or not. The most important battles you will ever face are not outside of you. They are inside. Your greatest resistance will not come from other people, but from your own mind. The mind is clever. It knows how to hold you back without shouting. It does it through whispers. It tells you to wait. It tells you you're not ready. It tells you to take the easy path today and try again tomorrow. If you listen, you stay still. And every day you stay still, your goals slip further away. Awareness by itself does not change a life. You can be fully aware of your habits, your mistakes, your weaknesses, and your potential. But if you don't act on that awareness, nothing shifts. People today have more awareness than ever before. They know what they should do. They know where they are falling short. They know the areas of life that need improvement. But awareness without execution is just noise in the mind. Execution is where progress lives. So here's the truth you can't ignore anymore. The gap between knowing and doing is where most dreams disappear. If you want your life to change, if you want your goals to survive, you must close that gap with action. Don't just carry knowledge in your head. Prove it with what you do today. Even the smallest step forward is better than another day of waiting. What do you already know that you will finally act on today? Not tomorrow, not someday, today. Because your future is being built right now. Not in your intentions, but in your actions.